We moved to Spain in the beginning of 2023, and we've had to adapt to life here because it's very different than life in the US.
There's pros and cons of living in the US and Spain, of course, and we are going to make some pretty broad generalizations about life in Spain. We live in Galicia, so we have a smaller sample size than someone who might live in the south or Valencia or Madrid or Barcelona. Please take that all with a grain of salt. Here are 7 of the biggest ways we've had to adapt to life in Spain since moving here from the US.
This video is brought to you by Epicka, but more on that later. I'm Lainey.
And I'm Shawn.
And this is Days We Spend
Adapting to Spain. One of the biggest adaptations you're going to have to make moving to Spain, especially if you're coming from the US, is getting used to life starting a little bit later and staying out a little bit longer. Because things in Spain happen a little bit later than we were used to.
Spain has a unique time zone, and it's aligned with the rest of Central Europe, even though it should be in the same time zone as Portugal and the UK.
So you're going to have to get used to the sun being up quite late in the summer and it being quite dark in the winter.
In the morning in winter, it doesn't rise until like 8 or 8:30 in the morning in Galicia, and that's tough. It's hard to get out of bed when it's pitch black for hours.
It's cold and dark and no one's really on the streets. People go to work at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. We're not saying that no one wakes up, but the feeling in our part of Spain, especially in the north, is that the day just starts a little bit later. So if you're an early bird, if you're someone that's used to getting up and going getting that morning coffee at like 6:30, you might struggle to find places that are open.
Sometimes there's a bar. We feel like getting up later and going to bed later is that's just what we do here.
Yeah.
Whereas I think in the US, when we lived there, I was shocked if I slept until 9 every day. And that brings us into our second adaptation, which is we moved our meal times to shift with the circadian rhythm of the time zone. And that is one of the reasons why, especially in summer, we don't eat dinner until like 10 p.m., sometimes 11, because it's still light out. Right now in Galicia, at the solstice, it's like 11:30 before it's dark, and it's wild. Your body just isn't ready to eat dinner at 7 or 8 or even 9 sometimes, because you lose track of what time it is in the day when the sun is out so late.
We were about to start cooking dinner yesterday at like 8:30 or 9, which is pretty early for us. And we got a text from a friend. They're like, hey, come downstairs. There's a party at the bar near you. We're going to dance. And we're like, okay. So we went down, had a great time. Life in the Spanish cities is wonderful. But next thing you know, it's like 10:15 and we're like, oh, we haven't eaten dinner yet. But the sun was still up. So we came back upstairs, cooked a quick dinner, and we were done eating by like 11. If you're coming from a place where dinner is always at 6 or at 7, there's places that aren't even open until 8 o'clock. Unless you're in a major city, there's exceptions everywhere you go. But in Spain, typically they like to avoid the heat of the day, especially in the south, which means it pushes dinner times to be a little bit later. You're never going to have dinner at 5 p.m. It just doesn't exist. That's almost like a late lunch.
And to adapt to that later dinner hour, we've moved our lunchtime to much later. So sometimes I don't start making lunch till 2. And if we go out, we'll go out to eat at like 2:30.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's even 3. The stereotype of Spain is you linger over a long lunch. And that doesn't happen every day, but we do eat late every day.
Yeah. It's called sobremesa. It just means above the table or about the table. It loosely translates to you're done with food and now it's time to have the lunch conversation. That can be like an hour.
Or the dinner. The sobremesa can be after dinner.
Yeah, have a coffee, have a chat.
And if you're someone who has kids, a lot of families partake in the merienda, which is like a 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. snack. You'll see that all over Spain. You're like, wow, people are having coffee and like cake or pastries or ice cream at like 5. Like, are you spoiling your dinner? No, because dinner is hours from that time.
It's to make sure that the kids make it. Because, little kids, they need to have snacks throughout the day.
Or I make it. We do the merienda sometimes.
Sometimes I have to make sure that Lainey's okay with the merienda. Eating a late dinner is a massive adjustment, especially for Americans. But I think a bigger adjustment for Americans is the general lack of air conditioning in Spain. And by that, I mean central air. In the US, life comes with air conditioning. But in Spain, I think the opposite is true. It's changing, but you're probably not going to have air conditioning, especially central air conditioning when you move to Spain.
Unless you're living in a new, modern, like fancy building, I would never expect central air conditioning. Even our apartment, which is an old building, but a modern renovation, does not have central air conditioning or even units on the wall, like the mini split.
We haven't lived in the South, so please let us know in the comments if air conditioning is becoming more common in places like Sevilla or, Granada or Murcia.
I know Madrid has more AC too, but it's not the same type of AC you're used to in the US. It's like you turn it on and you're cooling a room. You're not cooling the whole house.
You might have a mini split, which is the thing on the wall, but you'll also have a portable air conditioning unit with a big long hose that you have to like shove out a window or a door. However, in Europe, most of the windows are the kind of tilt and turn windows that you might have struggled with if you visited Europe and you didn't know how to work them. It's where the handle kind of activates where they go.
Oh no, it's breaking. I broke it.
Yeah. And that means that the hose, it's actually a little bit tough to get them out the window. Unlike in New York, where like the windows go up, you put your AC in and then you like block the window. You kind of have to end up MacGyvering things to get the seal to work to actually keep it cool.
And again, it depends on the type of windows. We have old style windows with wooden shutters, so we don't have the luxury of like the persianas, those blinds that are on the outside of most windows, which most people will like shove the hose in and close it on the persiana.
But even then, you'll still have this space on the side of the hose, which is wide open. The more common option is that you're just going to have a fan. With a couple of fans in strategic places, you can get through it. However, we've faced some pretty brutal heat waves this summer and last summer. Orense in particular set some heat records, set a heat record for June this year, and set an all-time heat record in July, I think, last year. Well over 100 degrees, which in Galicia is very hot. It's catching people by surprise. Everywhere in Spain is going to struggle with heat for the foreseeable future as heat waves become much more common.
Yeah, yesterday we bought another fan for our apartment because we're on an attic unit. So it's just all the heat of the building rises into our unit. Yeah. So we said, let's not let our computers overheat. We need another fan. We're sweating right now. We had to turn our fans off to make this video.
Yeah, you hear that? There's no fans on. So we are very warm right now, just for you.
So sweaty. When you move to Spain, you're going to need to adapt your American electronics to the new outlets. And we like to do this with the Hybrid 8-in-1 Travel Adapter from Epicka.
This hybrid solution functions as a 4-outlet wall extender in the US, so you can use it at home, but it also transforms into a European travel adapter thanks to the genius foldable plug system and hybrid detachable EU adapter. It becomes a compact international adapter that works flawlessly throughout Europe while packing about 30% smaller than non-foldable adapters.
The hybrid travel adapter is equipped with 4 AC outlets, 4 USB ports. 2 of them are USB-C and 2 are USB-A.
The foldable plug and compact lightweight design, it weighs just 4 ounces, means that it's basically a portable power strip you can use in the US or abroad without the clutter of extra wires and bulky adapters. Trusted by millions of travelers, Epicka is the #1 travel adapter in the US.
So click the link in the description below for 20% off your purchase and you can adapt to life in Spain and stay charged with Epicka. Number 5, driving less.
Life in America kind of centers around a car. You need a car to live in many parts of the United States. That's not as true in Spain, and it's one of the reasons that we moved here. But changing the way you get around is going to be a very big adaptation because life in Spain literally moves at a different pace. We don't have a car.
And that's partly why we live in a city versus living in the countryside. We can walk everywhere, but also we take the speed train all the time. We live on a speed train hub and we find ourselves going to Madrid. We go up north to A Coruña. We go to all sorts of places on the train. And where the train can't connect us, there's a great network of buses. You just have to know which bus is specialized as to which region. And that's where you can find like the hub and network.
It's a bit of a learning curve and buses aren't always the best way to travel, but it's efficient, it's affordable, and it's very reliable once you get over the hump of understanding which bus to take. And the high-speed train is one of my favorite ways to travel. For instance, the high-speed train from Orense to Madrid is about 2.5 hours. If I were to drive that, it'd be over 5 hours with gas and tolls. It's going to cost more. It's going to take longer. And I'm going to be exhausted by the time we get to Madrid. Not to mention that Madrid has like new restrictions on certain vehicles. It's a complicated issue and we're not 100% sure how it works everywhere, but it is a reality that Spain is starting to restrict vehicles in different cities. That's something to be aware of if you want to drive.
The other thing is if you don't have a car, all of your daily errands are going to be done by walking. We lived in New York City for many years, so we're already used to that. Like, I'm like, okay, cool. I just put all my groceries on my shoulder and walk. I've done this for many years.
She's so strong.
But if you haven't lived in a walkable place, then that's something you'll have to get used to. I'm only buying what I can physically carry, or you get one of those little like carts that people have.
It's very romantic to be like, I can walk to the cafe.
I have my bread.
I can walk to the bridge.
And then I have my coffee.
It's way less romantic to be like, I want to buy a watermelon, but I live 1.5 kilometers from the grocery store. If you do want to drive in Spain, you absolutely can. But Americans can't just transfer their American driver's license to a Spanish driver's license. You're only allowed to drive in Spain for 6 months as a tourist. After that, it's time to get an official Spanish driver's license, which means it's time to go back to school. You have to go through a qualified driving school.
Yeah.
Because they're the only ones that can make the appointment for you at the Spanish DMV for the driver's test. You have to pass a very grueling written test, which is legendarily difficult. It's going to take weeks or months to study for. And then you actually have to do the actual driving test with a Spanish driving.
After you've done a bunch of classes that they tell you, your driving school say, oh, you need 5 driving classes, or you need 10 driving classes. It's different based on the school and where you are.
Yeah. Like you might have to pay hundreds or even thousands of euros to get your Spanish driver's license. And it's going to be a very drawn out process. It's been an adaptation to learn how to ride the rails and ditch the car. And while there is still a demand for a vehicle, especially in places like Galicia, if you want to go camping or go to the beach, it's changed the way we see getting around and kind of changed the way that we think about what we do.
We've had to get used to the fact that most supermarkets, grocery stores, and some businesses are closed on Sundays.
They're also often closed randomly for vacations, personal reasons, or because the 2 people that work there aren't feeling well. So they just close the store and put a handwritten sign that says back, and it usually has a specific date. We've had to adapt our shopping habits to the rhythm of life here, which can be either a little bit slower than you might be used to, or just kind of sporadic with disruptions that maybe we didn't plan for.
There are restaurants open on Sunday. Most of them are open Sundays. So if you realize you don't have anything to eat in the house on a Sunday, it's not the end of the world. Go out to eat. It's a great time to do that. But if you went, oh no, I was trying to meal prep all my meals for this week and it's Sunday morning and I didn't get all the ingredients I wanted, you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
Even in our city, about 105,000 people, there are, I think, 2 grocery stores open in the morning on Sunday morning. And that's it, 2. And that's really rare. And it's only because we're in a city and they're very far away from our apartment.
Life in the US is very convenient, but it's not always easy. And I would say that life in Spain is actually quite easy, but not always convenient. It's wonderful to walk to the market, buy groceries from someone who recognizes you, have a chit chat, fresh bread, the prices are good, but you won't be able to do it on Sunday. And we like that. We like that restaurants can close for the health and work-life balance of their employees. I think that's great, but it might mean that your plans get disrupted. Do something else. However, it's important to note that essential services will always be open. For instance, you will always have at least one pharmacy that is open on Sundays for emergencies. And places like hospitals never take a day off.
Some of these are generalizations to different regions and different places. And we know life in Galicia is a little more still rural feeling, even though we're in a city. And so the businesses still take those more traditional vacations and closing days. Whereas we've heard from a lot of people in comments that in bigger cities like Madrid or Valencia, like it's really not as much of a thing anymore because there's more chains, there's more expectation, there's more tourists in those places. We're not here to tell you that like everything closes in the middle of the day. Everything closes on Sunday. Everything closes for like vacations after the big festivals. But in our experience, that's really been what we've seen in general.
Let us know in the comments if you live in a major city where things are changing and either you like it or you don't like it, because we want to learn as well. The last big adaptation that you're going to have to make if you move here from the US is no clothes dryers.
In your apartment.
They don't exist. Spain doesn't have any.
They exist.
They've never been invented here. Like in the movie, the 2001, they're just touching them like an obelisk. Like, what is this? The reason that clothes dryers in homes and apartments are very rare is because you don't need them. Everyone just has clotheslines or drying racks that you put your clothes on, put them outside, you can hang them out of your window. They're gonna be dry magically from the air for free.
Even where we live, where it's wet and moist and rains a lot in the north of Spain, it's still not common to have a dryer unless you maybe own your apartment or you're in like a really fancy place. Because if you really need a dryer, there's a laundromat at least a few blocks away that you can pay to use the dryer.
I will say this can be a little bit challenging in the winter. We are less likely to hang our clothes outside, which means they're inside and it's a little bit more damp. We have to use a little heater and kind of try to blow air on it.
And dehumidifiers.
Yeah, so it's not perfect, but I don't even really think about it anymore. I mean, having a dryer would be nice. Personally, I think I've adapted pretty well to just the washer is where you clean them and then they go outside. It's not convenient, but it's easy.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost anything to hang up your clothes to dry, unlike running the electricity of a dryer. And your clothes will last longer not putting them through the heat of a dryer cycle. Especially we wear a lot of merino wool. I wear a lot of vintage clothing. These are things I would normally be air drying anyway, so we just got in the habit of air drying everything.
We love living here. I think it's been a very successful adaptation. And while we might miss a few conveniences in the United States, I think the trade-off is more than worth it for the quality of life that we get with more interactions, more walking, better food. The list of things goes on. But if you want to learn more about how to live in Spain, how to move to Spain, we've got 17,000 videos about living here.
Yeah, if you have a question, we probably made it already. And if we haven't, tell us so we can make that video. Or how have you adapted to life in Spain? Please let us know. This is just the 7 things off the top of our head. Honestly, there's so many more we could probably think of, but this video would be too long. So you can subscribe to our channel, hit that like button. You can also become a member if you want to partake in some of our monthly chats where we answer all your questions about us and get very personal with our amigos. Follow us on Instagram for some daily adventures of our life in Spain. And thank you so much for spending this day with us.
I'm Shawn.
I'm Lainey.
And I love air drying my clothes.